fighting for the values that make Nebraska the good life. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Way to go. We've got another way to go within 8 days, Wyatt. See, I'm not going to rant today. I'm going to rave. Another way to go shout out. Second in just about 7 days. Of course, the first one, Nebraska State Treasurer Tom Breezy. Man, I love that guy. I cannot. He's coming in tomorrow. We're going to talk about his brand new website, opening up the state's checkbook. So you and I know exactly where every single penny goes, who it's spent to, and who received that money. That is great. You shine light in the darkness, it'll alleviate. I want LB transparency to pass. That's going to be my bill. I want every government entity and agency, including public school systems, to have an open checkbook on their website as well. Do it by 2028. I'll even help fund that, right? Do an LB funding bill, because that will, a rate of return on an investment like that would be unbelievable. But anyway, way to go, Tom Breezy. We will get to our next way to go here in just a minute. If you want to know that website, it's statespending.nebraska.gov, statespending.nebraska.gov. All right, as you already know, several weeks ago, I covered the NextEra Solar Farm Project. It's going to be built east of Hallam, 2,400 acres. Not many people knew about this, not even the people that were impacted by it. Neighbors that would be next door to them. We went through all that. This is a multi-billion-dollar company outside the state of Nebraska. So later on the show, we're going to have two very concerned citizens who are going to help us better understand the impact that this project will have. Kimberly Robinson and Dennis Hermesch will be here actually in the studio now. And we're going to dig into this. They're going to educate me on a lot of this. But we also know that the permitting of this has to go through the Lancaster County Commissioners Board. That meeting is tomorrow, 9 a.m. I've got the notes here, so we'll dig into that here in just a little bit as well. And we know that NextEra is in the hip pocket of one of our commissioners, if not several. So we'll talk about that. If you want to talk about it, you can text or call in the Summit Lawn text and talk line, 402-479-1400. All right, back to our way to go. Last Friday, and then this was brand new when we started the show, but last Friday, Governor Jim Pillen, State Senator Kathleen Kauth introduced LB 89, the Stand With Women Act, which dictates the definition of male, female, boy, and girl as corresponding to a person's production of sperm or ova and or a person's biological sex and sex assigned at birth. Under the bill, state agency buildings and all schools, private, public, denominational, parochial, will be required to enforce this definition of genders in regards to restrooms, which need to be marked females or males. Governor Pillen said, quote, "It's really simple, folks. Girls and women should not have to share a locker room with boys and men, period. Protecting female-only spaces is incredibly important because girls and women should have access to spaces where they are safe and secure." He went on to say, "I have 3 granddaughters. Over my dead body, are they going to have to someday wake up and have men and boys in their locker room space or compete against them?" Governor Pillen, way to go. Let's keep moving. Senator Kauth said it's critically important that we actually make this stand. We have to be able to say that a woman is a woman and a man is a man. How complicated is that? Here's the cool thing. During this press conference, 2 University of Nebraska decorated athletes were in attendance. Jordy Ball from the women's softball team, Rebecca Alec from the women's volleyball team. They participated in the conference. Ball said, quote, "There's been extreme demand, but there's also been extreme consequences for saying no to insanity that has been pushed on us. I believe that that is why we now have a silent majority. A large majority of Americans know how morally screwed up this is, but they're not willing to say anything about it because they're afraid to." She went on to say, "All human beings are creations of the Lord. Everybody's created and designed by the Father. But the difference is that I don't think some people have let their hearts receive the love of Jesus Christ. And that is where I feel there's a big difference. But despite whatever feelings or emotions or identity crisis one could be going through, there's always going to be a major thing that we need to identify to decipher male and female. Alec went on. I'm not going to read her whole quote. You need to go listen to it. It was really good. But she began her comments by saying the LGBTQ plus trans activist community is, quote, just full of hate. And what she was referring to was when Governor Pillen started this press conference, there was a mass of people in the hallways chanting against him. And she was just frustrated, like they all were. Actually, Pillen actually stopped, and then they had them escorted out of the Capitol, I believe. But Rebecca said this, quote, what's beautiful is that God gave us the definition of a woman. It is of femininity. It is of grace. It's of beauty. I just believe that if more of the community would just dive into what our Lord has to offer, they would find peace in this identity. And she goes on, just talking about how her heart breaks for the trans community because a lot of them, she feels, have resorted to the community because people weren't willing to listen when they were frustrated or crying out. Quote, people weren't listening when they were asking for help and were confused. And so this isn't about hate. This is simply about reality. Men, women, boys and men should not be involved in women's and girls' sports, period. And they should never, ever be allowed in bathrooms and locker rooms. So way to go, everyone. I'm excited for LB 89. Let's get this thing passed, state senators. I know you're in session right now. Let's do this. So proud of Jordy and Rebecca for standing up and speaking out as women in sports who have a lot of credibility. We need more of this happening. State senators, pass this legislation. Enough is enough. All right, we're going to take our first break here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dennis Hermesch and Kimberly Robinson to talk about the NextEra Solar Farm issue. This will be interesting. Going to ruffle a little feathers here, I think, and we need to, because it's all about awareness. If you got a question or comment, just call or text us the Summit Lawn text and talk line 402-479-1400. Thanks so much for listening to Drive Time Nebraska.
Got an opinion on the latest Huskers game? Fire off with a voice message in the free KLIN app.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we don't say two birds with one stone. We say two damages with one deductible. With us, if your home and auto are both damaged in one storm, you only pay one deductible. And we should probably stop using stones for that sort of thing anyway. Talk to a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent about our one deductible advantage at fbfs.com/protect. It's your future. Let's protect it. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
Come in and try the Good Feet feeling today. Comfort, energy, performance, and pain relief at the Good Feet store. Visit the store for a free test walk at 27th and Pine Lake Road across from South Point Mall near PetSmart or at goodfeet.com. Good Feet arch supports are proudly made in the USA.
At Pemberley Place Senior Living here in Lincoln, our experts help you enjoy life every step of the way. Pemberley Place offers a continuum of care campus for independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Surround yourself with activity, good friends, great food, and a new outlook on life. Plus all the personalized and attentive care you deserve. For apartment availability, visit PemberleyPlace.com. That's PemberleyPlace.com, an MJ Senior Living community.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Disagree with Doug? The guests? The topic? Call or text 402-479-1400 now to be a part of the show. KLIN weather brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Increasing clouds and chilly this evening with the temperatures dropping to around 20 by midnight. After midnight, partly to mostly cloudy and cold with a 20% chance of flurries and snow showers. Low around 10. Tuesday, mostly sunny to partly cloudy and remaining cold with a high in the low 20s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Keep up the good work. Most traffic continues to move well. No reported accidents or major delays. We do have a few volume slowdowns. South 14th and Nebraska Parkway, South 27th and Nebraska Parkway. A couple of usual slow spots. We do have a few construction projects. We'll want to watch for lane shifts and lane closures. Make sure the headlights are on. If you come across anything that slows you down, call the traffic hotline 402 479-1414. Keeping you moving with Time Saver Traffic. I'm Chris Lofgren.
Training threes on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans, with the occasional technical or two. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald, 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, Friday we dug into this ridiculous and fear-mongering request from Lincoln's mayor, Larry and Gaylor Baird, to vote for a 0.25% sales tax in April for 8 more years. 8. No. I say vote no on this. You're going to hear a lot more about it. She's putting it out there with just 3 months till we get to the primary in April, so don't. We also talked last Friday about the NextEra Solar Farm issue, more from the standpoint of campaign donations that started County Commissioner Chelsea Johnson's campaign. Tell me that NextEra is not in her hip pocket. All right, if you want to check out that podcast, go there at klin.com or your favorite podcast service. All right, let's dig into this whole thing in regards to NextEra Solar Farm, this major project that's going on east of Hallam, 2,400 acres. By the way, the Lancaster County Commissioners are going to be meeting tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. We'd love for you to go there. They have to approve the permits for this. You guys showed up at the Planning Commission's meeting. That was awesome. Let's do the same thing for the commissioners. I know it's 9 a.m. I harp on this all the time. If we elect you, you should be able to have a meeting at the evening once a month so everybody can attend. Good night. It's going to be at the county building, room 112, and hopefully all the commissioners will be there. I've got the meeting notes in my bag here somewhere. It's going to be the last thing on the item before public discussion, so that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens there. So today I've invited in Kimberly Robinson and Dennis Hermesch to talk about this. They're very involved in this. Citizens that know a lot. They've done a lot of research. They're going to educate me and you on this. So welcome to the show, Dennis and Kimberly. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. I also want to thank Kim Top for helping me connect with you guys, because that was she's kind of got everything started with this. So, all right, well, let's talk about this. We've dug into this before. What happened was, from if I recall this right, we've got NextEra Energy, who wants to put a solar farm, major solar farm, probably one of the biggest in the Midwest, just east of Hallam. And where I got wind of this was a Lincoln Journal-Star article that said hardly anybody knew that was going on in the neighborhood. Like even the people that were impacted with their own properties that were butting right up to this whole borderline that's going to be. And so then I'm like, dang. So then I contacted Kim. She called in and we started digging into this. As I was reading that article, I also, NextEra for some reason just stuck in my brain. And I'm like, I'm going to go back to campaign finances and find out something here. Chelsea Johnson, of course, running for county commissioner just a couple months ago. And guess what? NextEra started funding her campaign from the very beginning. All right. And they're just one of many energy companies that have funded her. And guess what? She's going to be required now to vote for permits to get them started. All right. So that's where all of this started and the conversation began. So I tell you what, let me start. What I'd like for us to do is, first of all, if you both would just kind of share your story and how you have gotten involved with this to this point and why it's important. So Kimberly, let's start with you.
I will say the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I received a letter in the mail that changed my life forever, and letting me know that the very next week we would be having the special permit hearing about a large solar facility. I really try to avoid calling it a solar farm.
Okay.
Farm really makes everyone think that it's this beautiful, wonderful, positive experience, and it really is an industrial installation that's going in next to my property. They've leased the property around all 3 sides of my home.
Really?
We purchased our house a year ago in November of 2023.
Did you know about it when you purchased your home?
No disclosure by anyone, including my neighbor when I talked with him multiple times. I'm assuming he signed an NDA.
Right.
But so yeah, there was no disclosure. We moved forward with buying basically a fixer-upper. It's a 99-year-old home. So it's an old farmhouse. We're fixing that up. We're establishing a business there. We have thousands of flower bulbs in the ground. We have a massive lavender order coming in. We're doing all of these things to really create an agricultural tourism destination. And now we're going to be surrounded by solar panels and 4 inverters around our property also, which are, per their specs, are going to be 80 decibels 24/7. basically. Probably during the summers. My husband works with HVAC systems and has reviewed this specifications for these machines, and we're anticipating our 110 degrees summers to require a lot more cooling. So there's going to be a lot more fan noise from that, and they'll have to go day and night. So
your property is going to be surrounded on. So just as you're listening to this today, I just want you to get a picture of this. Your property is going to be surrounded on 3 sides.
Correct.
So I don't even have to ask you how it's going to impact you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very clear.
Yep.
And especially when you have a business there as well. I mean, and people are going to be coming. That's the plan.
Well, that was the 10-year plan.
Correct.
You know, we're in the very early phases of trying to figure out what our plan is, but we're already we've canceled our USDA contract that we'd established to start this year because we're going to have to readjust all of our plans on where everything's going to go to accommodate the solar panels and the barriers that they're going to be installing and the shade that they're going to be putting onto our property. It's going to impact it.
So the first time you learned about this was when you got the meeting notice for the Planning Commission?
Correct.
Are you kidding me? That was just like a month ago.
Yeah. And they did put out the signs 2 weeks ahead of time. I live at Highway 77 and West Princeton Road, which is the busiest intersection in the project pretty much, unless you're in Hallam. There wasn't a sign on that corner, and I can verify that from their presentation at the hearings too. So there was zero opportunity for us to be notified.
That says you think about planning this all goes back to what I've been talking about and harping on. Pull back the curtain and find out what's going on. And then this happens out of the blue. Dennis, what's your story? Because that one really makes me irritated when I hear that.
Well, I lived in the Beatrice and Plymouth area for most of my life, over 30 years. And we moved to Colorado for 13 years and just moved back. We bought an acreage on Princeton Road, just down the road from Kimberly. And, we moved to that area because we love nature. We love agriculture. And, it impacts us a little less than it does Kimberly. But yet, we have grandkids over all the time. I mean, the whole atmosphere of taken away from our farming community is big in my heart. We don't want to look out the window all the time and look at a large industrial solar complex. We want to look at crops, and we want to look at trees, and we want to look at nature.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about boundaries that they set. What do you call them? Buffers or setbacks? All right.
Yes.
So because we're looking at your property and now we're talking about the aesthetics, right? Well, we'll get into some other things down the road. The impact of recycling, the impact of, how this is going to impact your daily lives, all that kind of stuff, and the specifics about this solar complex. I'll rephrase my terminology here, but let's talk about the setbacks, because if you're talking about your grandkids, obviously you want it to be a safe place for them. But also appealing. And if you're on 3 sides and there's setbacks, I'm assuming they're probably going to put up trees, Kimberly, and then now you're going to have a big old buffer around you. But Dennis, what about you? What would it look like for your property?
Yeah, well, the World Health Organization recommends 1,640 feet buffer zones.
And this one's going to be
a third of a mile. This one's going to be 200.
Which is about 50 yards.
Yes.
That's if they approve the recommendations from the Planning Commission.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be 100 feet.
Right. Well,
Seriously.
200 feet, that's across that's like sitting across from the other fans in a football field. So you can imagine how close that is. That's about 200 feet. Gage County, Cass County, Murray County, they all have 500 to 600 feet setbacks.
Or if we lived in North Lancaster County at the Salt Creek project, we would have had 450 feet approved.
About a whole football field then.
Yeah.
So why are we just knowing, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of arguments over on the health aspects. I have some personal acquaintances with living in Colorado, but there can be health drawbacks to ground current that is produced by solar inverters. Everybody knows that. A lot of them aren't installed with harmonic filters, and it creates ground current, and it can affect people's health.
Sure. Let's, before we go to break here, just give me an estimate. How many 2,400 acres impacts a lot of people, not only the people that are selling the land, but then everybody who lives around
leasing the land.
Leasing the land. Give me a guess, because you guys have been involved with this. You have neighbors. How many neighbors actually knew about this? The ones that aren't leasing to them. How many knew about it? I mean, you knew about it a week before.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who knew about it.
I got my letter for the open house at Hallam 2 days before the meeting. That is the first I knew about it.
Some received it that day.
Obviously, the landowners that rented their land knew about it early, but it was purposely kept to hold down the resistance. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of deceptive practices that led up to this.
Even if they say they build community, I believe is what they kept telling us at the hearing in the open house. I have not much community has been built, but a lot of splits have been formed.
Well, we're going to take a break here. Terry just texted in. I've got a coworker who lives in the east part of the county where a proposed solar farm was to be built 3 years ago. This sounds exactly the same with the secrecy, special permit, setback issues, etc. They believe they have finally won the legal battle against the solar farm. Why do our county commissioners think allowing the exact same thing would be acceptable? So Terry, I appreciate that. We're going to take a break here. We're going to look at all kinds of stuff. We're going to look at, I'm learning all kinds of things from them as far as electricity. Is it going to be sold to anybody? Is it all going to stay here in Nebraska? What happens if we have to recycle? What happens if a big tornado goes through? That's kind of almost tornado alley right here in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Who's going to take care of that? Who's responsible, liable for all that? Is it going to be the landowners, adjacent landowners, lessees, or the company? I don't know. Lots of stuff to be answered, lots of questions, and a lot of things apparently that we already know about are being hidden. And our goal today is just to bring light to all this. Cities from across the state, they're listening to Drive Time Nebraska. We'll be back right after this.
Stay informed and stay engaged.
They keep me up to date.
KLIN, Lincoln.
Have you inherited silver or gold? Lincoln Coin and Bullion will appraise and guide you. Nebraska's largest dealer by appointment only. Call and schedule your private appointment today. Does your business need quick, competitive financing for heavy machinery, trucks, or other equipment? Currency is here to help. Whether you're financing construction equipment, farm equipment, trucks, trailers, or any other big ticket item, Currency will automatically find the best rates. Currency facilitates loans for up to $500,000 with repayment terms up to 72 months. It's fast, easy, and free to use. Visit gocurrency.com and apply today.
Join Mark Patrick seminars. Lose the weight or stop smoking, guaranteed. Early bird special only $49.99. Seminar Wednesday, January 22nd at the Holiday Inn Lincoln Southwest in Lincoln. Weight loss seminar starts at 5:30. Registration 5. Stop smoking starts at 8. Registration 7:30.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Increasing clouds and chilly this evening with the temperature dropping to around 20 by midnight. After midnight, partly to mostly cloudy and cold with a 20% chance of flurries and snow showers, low around 10. Tuesday, mostly sunny to partly cloudy and remaining cold with a high in the low 20s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
On the downhill side of our drive time traffic, do watch for slowdown South 56 at Old Cheney Road, an accident. Thanks to a listener for calling in. South 56 at Old Cheney Road, running slow due to an accident. Otherwise, most traffic moving well, a few volume slowdowns, and we do have several construction projects and utility projects. We'll want to watch for lane chips and lane closures. Keep in mind West A Street, Southwest 30th to Southwest 27th. That is closed for a paving project with local access only. Make sure the headlights are on, keeping you moving with time saver traffic. I'm Chris Lofgren.
Now back to more Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
I want to thank our title sponsor, Lincoln Coin and Bullion, for taking care of us, my trusted precious metal dealer for well over a decade now. Listen to this. Most people don't even know this. I love gold and silver, by the way. You guys know that. U.S. crude oil this year, 6% return so far. Physical silver, 4.9%. Physical gold, 2.9%. Bitcoin, 1.4%. The U.S. dollar, 1.2%. NASDAQ 100, negative 0.8%. S&P 500, down 1%. Ethereum, down 1.8%. Russell 2000, down 1.9%. S&P, China, down 6.5%. Hey, if you want to retain your purchasing power, in my opinion, gold's the way to go. Go talk to them. 402-328-2853. You can call them up for a personal appointment. They work by appointment only. So check them out. Lincoln Coin and Bullion. You can also go to their website, lincolncoinandbullion.com. All right. Well, we're having a fun little conversation here in the studio. We've got the phone lines ringing. Bill's on line one. Bill, thank you so much for tuning in today and for calling us up. Do you have a question or a comment in regards to the solar project happening with NextEra?
First off, my prayers and just heartfelt sympathy for these people who've had their lives and their way of life destroyed, the good life in Nebraska. So I have 50 acres a mile south of Branched Oak. For 4 decades, I've been doing agro-tourism and living the good life in Nebraska. And so I know that this is coming. And so what I've been doing is working in the Nebraska State Legislature for the last 12 years as an unpaid citizen. And so I'm working on introducing a bill that gives the citizen the right at the county level to petition to put on the ballot to repeal ordinances like this or permits like this right now in the legislature.
So what senators should we contact? I know you're working with some.
Or Senator Ballard, and there's a couple senators. I worked with Senator Brewer for years on this issue. I don't want my state destroyed I'm as green as can be, but this is not green.
Right.
And I don't want to take up all your time for this. Senator Harding from, Gering has introduced a bill to prohibit the storage of used windmill blades and solar panels because companies have started dumping them out west because all the solar or the windmill blades go to a big empty coal mines in open pits in Wyoming, and they're just laying there because they're not recyclable. They don't know what to do with them.
Well, Bill,
so we're in a dilemma here.
Yeah, Bill, great information. Thank you so much for calling in. Senator Ballard, get a hold of him.
Yep. Senator Brewer's gone, but Senator Ballard, yes, he's considering the bill, but I'm working on a couple other bills that I will be at that meeting tomorrow morning to meet with these folks and do whatever I can to help them.
All right, Bill, they'll look forward to that. Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Yep, bye.
See, there you go. I mean, when you get down to it, the core of the show is the question I always ask is what's best for our kids and grandkids in the future? If we're going to save the good life like Bill's talking about, then we need to wake up, and we need to wake up at who we're putting into office and know exactly what they're going to do when they get there. Bill brings up some good point about just how, if there's waste from this, where does it go? Let's talk about, you talked about your personal impacts of your personal properties. Let's start digging into the other impacts that this will have within your area of community in the county. You talked about roads. We need some road studies done. It looks like one of these roads is on a school line. So let's talk about that. And then we'll talk about, recycling, what happens, who's responsible for this stuff.
Yes. Well, we both live on West Princeton Road, which Princeton Road is just 5 miles down the way west from Norris Schools. My 13-year-old, while she was listening to us talk through our research this weekend, said, well, that's really dangerous. I'm going to be a school student driver next year.
Yep.
And she heard us talking about the thousands and thousands of semi-trucks that are going to be required to bring in all the equipment to build this project. That are going to be required to maintain this project and switch it out because their lifespan is not necessarily the entire 25 years of the project or the 20 years. So especially as the technology continues to change, they're finding that these companies are switching them out sooner. So we're expecting more. Plus the 4 inverters around my house and around everybody else's homes need to be changed out every 5 years. And so we're expecting large amounts of semi-trucks on these dirt and gravel roads that are right off of Highway 77, 4-lane traffic, where people commute from Lincoln down to Beatrice and where Husker traffic comes on through.
Yep.
So it's a 70-mile highway with no stop signs, with no stop lights, with no overpasses. How many people are going to die?
So what kind of studies have been done at this point?
None.
So there haven't been any traffic studies.
If there have been, you know,
Nobody
we've
knows
talked about
about 'em.
transparency. There's not been any. We're just supposed to trust the city or the county engineer that they are going to do their due diligence and make sure that we have a good quality contract in place where NextEra will help cover the cost of fixing our roads and maintaining them through this process.
But you talk about safety too. I was a 14-year-old student driver. I grew up in the country and got to drive in, 14 years old. 14 years old. All right. And you're talking about megaton semis driving through on a regular basis, even if it's just for a short period of time, it's not good. That's just not good. All right, Dennis, let's talk about some of the recycle stuff. I mean, we've talked about that. What happens if all this stuff is being changed out? Where does it go? Who's responsible?
Really good point. I mean, NextEra says 30-year lifespan, but these solar panels are only 20% efficient on converting sun energy to electricity. And that's not very debatable. Everybody is way under 50%. So they're only 20% efficient at converting sun energy into electricity. So the efficiency is changing rapidly. NextEra even says on their fact sheet, we may replace this with new technology at any time through. What I'm saying is they're probably not going to be there for 30 years. What if they're non-profitable in 15 or 20 years and stuff? And what if so many of the subsidies dry up that it's hard to make money on these solar panels in 15 or 20 years? There is no bond until the 15th year to ensure that they have to decommission or deconstruct this solar complex. And the reason there's no bond is they on their special permit application, Exhibit K, which you have to ask for, which is not on the public websites, it states that there is a salvage value for these solar panels of $75,980,000. We've contacted several companies, including the company that they list as their salvager, and they say there is not only no salvage value for these panels, it would cost $35 million today to recycle these panels.
Okay, let's back up. Just so I'm my novice mind here. So you're saying if they need to change out these panels, they're saying, hey, I can go resell these because they're worth something if I send them. So I'm going to take them somewhere. 75 million. And then you've contacted the actual people that actually would buy this recyclable material. And they're saying, no, we wouldn't pay a dime for them. Actually, you're going to have to pay us to take them.
Right. We contacted a lot of different companies, everybody that would tell us. A lot of them won't tell us because they say that's cutting off their own income flow. But that's a difference of $111 million from $75,980,000 to costing $35 million. That's a difference of $111 million.
Who pays for that?
But that's the reason it says right on the special permit application. This is the reason they don't have to have a surety bond until the 15th year because of the salvage value of the panels. There's no salvage value for these panels.
Who pays for that?
Who pays for the cleanup?
Yeah,
that's a really good question. That's a really good question.
So this is just
do you
crazy.
think these farmers that rent their ground to NextEra, they probably aren't going to be there. They probably really don't care. They aren't going to clean them up because of the cost to clean them up. Who is going to clean them up? There is solar farms that have sat empty out in California and a couple of different states that they can't get them to clean up until the public outcry was so bad. They sat there for 14 years after they were completely non-usable.
And they're still classified as hazardous materials.
And nobody would clean up. We called all the local landfills. Everybody says right away, we won't take solar panels. So what are you going to do with them?
Were you guys both at the planning commission meeting?
Both of them, yes.
What was their reaction? I'm curious.
That's nice. That's a good question.
That was it.
From what I can tell from their responses to any of our questions, and I've had one-on-one meetings with city planners also, it's basically that NextEra has gone quote unquote above and beyond by submitting all these extra information. So we're not going to question any of it. They must be honest. They've done these extra things that should be, honestly, I believe, required by our board, that they should provide these things. And since we're taking them at their word, we should be having a third party come in and do some fact checking.
Is it public information at this point, or
it exists? I had to print everything off immediately off the planning commission website. As soon as they approved the minutes, it all disappeared. Technically, it's still there. It's just impossible to search the website.
Right. It's hard.
Goes back to the transparency, right?
Yep. You ask anybody. I've gone through, trust me, different government agencies, you look at their budget and they'll give you a big line item number, but they will not give you specifics. That's why I'm so excited for Tom Breezy opening up the state checkbook. What were you going to say?
Well, and this information on the salvage value wasn't available. My wife had to ask for it and ask for it.
It's in the decommissioning plan too.
Before she finally got it. Okay. It isn't on the website. It's an Exhibit K that you have to ask them to send it to you.
Right. So it's not completely open at this point.
So it wasn't presented at the planning commission meeting because it's new information that my wife uncovered.
All right, let's take another break here. We're going to keep digging into this. You can keep the calls and texts coming in 402-479-1400. We appreciate that. I started out with the way to go, and now I'm just getting last week I was really irritated. I'm getting more and more irritated. Why can't we just be transparent with stuff, people? I know you want power. People want power and money at the expense of us as citizens. And like I've said before, when you're taxed, you spend minutes and hours of you exchange your life for that money. We should know exactly where that money's going. It's our money. When we're talking about all these millions of dollars, that's your money. It's my money. It's not their money. We've elected them to steward it well. We need to elect better, just across the board. All right, we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Your city, your voice.
The border is our biggest problem right now.
Talk radio powered by you.
If we don't say something, nothing will change.
The voice of Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Sports Nightly is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
Icon Plumbing will be able to approach your plumbing problems with an expert diagnosis followed with honest repair options. Icon Plumbing. Leaks, remodels, clogs, preventative maintenance, and more. Icon Plumbing's experts have the experience to fix basically anything. Their professionals have been around the block and inside every sort of home plumbing scenario over the years. Icon Plumbing. From the water main to the sewer line with everything in between, Icon Plumbing's experts can handle it all. IconPlumbingNE.com.
Acres is heating up the new year with red-hot deals. Acres has slashed prices on select late model used John Deere equipment. Get discounts over 20%. And with a special 24-month interest waiver or 2.9% interest for 60 months, you can upgrade and save even more. Visit acres.com to choose from the widest selection of John Deere tractors, combines, planters, and sprayers. Act now. Incentives expire January 31st, 2025. Financing program subject to credit with John Deere Financial. Some restrictions may apply.
Pre-planning a funeral allows you to express your end-of-life wishes, keeps your family from making those decisions at an emotional time, and eases the financial burden. Roper & Sons, we're here to help you tell your story.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Increasing clouds and chilly this evening with the temperature dropping to around 20 by midnight. After midnight, partly to mostly cloudy and cold with a 20% chance of flurries and snow showers. Low around 10. Tuesday, mostly sunny to partly cloudy and remaining cold with a high in the low 20s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
Raising the roof on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans. With the occasional net violation. You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, we appreciate you tuning in today. This has just been very eye-opening. Dennis Hermesch and Kimberly Robinson are in talking about the NextEra Solar what'd you call it? Complex that's going to be built right behind you and surrounding your properties, impacting a lot of people. And so we're going to keep digging into this issue. Before we get more into the weeds here, or clearing, I don't know what we're doing here. We're getting some good information out there. Kimberly, why don't you share with us, how can people get more information if they want to follow along here and help out?
Our neighbors, all of us have gotten together, and we have finally gotten together a Facebook group called Stop Panama Energy. Please go follow that. We've been posting education about this project and about solar facilities in general, and that's going to be the best way to keep track of us. And then we also have linked on that page the GoFundMe to help us support the fight against.
And I've got links to those in our podcast description, also in our social media description, so you can go there right now and you can check them out as well. Hey, we've got just a horrific situation going on in California. I have friends out there that have had to evacuate. One of them like 3 times their home because of the fires that are happening there. And you have brought up during one of our breaks, you have brought up that there is a potential for a fire hazard here. Obviously, if you're talking about energy, you're going to talk about potential fire hazards. And I'm sure a lot of people think, well, it's Hallam, it's kind of flat ground. They really can't impact us. Is there a potential fire danger by having this solar project here?
Absolutely. And there's examples of that in the news just within this last year of 2024. In New York State, there were 3 battery-related fires. And actually, they led to the point where people within a mile radius had to quarantine in their homes or shelter in place to protect themselves from the hazardous fumes or potential hazardous fumes related to it. And as you know, with lithium batteries, they burn hot and they burn long. And so it was a matter of days to get those fires completely extinguished. And I know at the Planning Commission hearings, NextEra said that the panels don't cause any fires, but and I get it mixed up if it's Washington State or Oregon up out of my brain, but panel did overheat and melt, and that caused wildfires there. And that particular solar facility had multiple wildfires that summer or the summer related to that kind of incident.
Yeah, so there's a danger there, Dennis.
Yeah, well, there's 100 lithium ion batteries that are 20 feet by 9 feet by 10 feet. Huge batteries, lithium ion.
So bigger than a semi, basically.
Yeah, well,
about the same size.
Yes. Lithium ion batteries. You heard scooter fires. My brother's house burnt down because of an iPad, lithium ion battery in an iPad. You know, we know about the cars now with the floods, with the hurricane and everything. So lithium ion, we know there's a potential for a fire hazard. Period.
And a risk. And you look at the storms that go through there too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and the drought.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we know of in 2002 when we had the fires during the really bad winds.
Right.
You know, that was in the fall. This year, several of the farmers had to shut down during harvest because the winds were bad. We can't shut this solar farm down. And when the chain link fences blow all full of corn stalks, and the farmer across the road gets a hot bearing in his machine and it accidentally starts a fire, are they going to be responsible for the solar panels burning up?
That just happened in Lancaster County.
Yeah. Are the solar panels just going to ignite this fire and make it go faster and faster and hotter and hotter? Are there going to be all kinds of hazardous fumes go in the environment?
And my house is surrounded by on 3 sides.
How big is this fence going to, there's a fence going to be surrounding it?
Yeah. I'm
6 feet tall, I believe.
I heard 8, but yeah, 6 to 8 foot chain link fence all the way around it.
So so as property owners then, what kind of information have you received from NextEra or whoever's in charge of all this about the potential just health dangers and fire dangers and any other dangers that could potentially come along? Like, there's warnings on everything nowadays, right? There's warnings probably on bottles of water. I mean, this is a lot bigger than that.
What have we heard from NextEra?
Anybody about just the potential dangers?
Do you hear the silence?
Wyatt, can you get some crickets going here?
They've already talked to the local fire departments and got them to where they won't get involved.
What?
They won't make a public statement.
All right. So, okay, we've got just a couple minutes here. I want to end on a high note. Number one, we've got a meeting tomorrow. Let's talk about the meeting. What do you want people to do? What can they be prepared for? And then I also know that you're not against necessarily green energy. It's just about how this is being done.
No, green. We're all for renewable energy. Okay. But is this the best location for that? You know, they chose a highly populated agricultural area to build these solar farms. If it was out west, not only would they have way more sunny days. I mean, Denver gets more than 100 more sunny days a year than we do. Western Nebraska gets a lot more sun, so they would create a lot more energy. You know, not only do we have that, but we wouldn't be destroying the cornfields that offset CO2.
Right.
And please, please, please reach out to your the commissioner that represents your district. We need them to know that you are aware that they have written these poor regulations that are not looking out for the best, the well-being of our community and your neighbors. And this can happen anywhere. And so we need to make sure we get this changed now. So contact them, tell them to stop this process. And if you're able to come to the hearing tomorrow, we'd love to see you.
All right. So here's the thing. The meeting's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., County City Building Room 112. Commissioners Rick Vest, Krista Yoakum, Chelsea Johnson, Sean Flowerday, and Matt Schulte will be there. I would like, this is just me talking as the host, I would like somebody at the meeting to ask Chelsea Johnson about her campaign finance from NextEra that got her campaign started this past year for her county commissioner race. Seriously. Like, and is there a conflict of interest for her being on the board at LES? That's it. Just simple questions. Very public knowledge that she got campaign money from several different power sources, including Panama and several other ones as well from outside the state of Nebraska, nearly $200,000 in campaign finance. David Russell, $17,000, all from within Nebraska. So, all right, Dennis, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today. Keep us up to date on this, and we'll keep following the process as we go.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. You can check out the podcast at klin.com or your favorite podcast service. Again, we want to thank Kimberly and Dennis for popping in. Wyatt, thanks so much for producing the show. We appreciate that. Sports Nightly is up next. There's only 82,800 seconds left until we see each other again, my friends. I want you to seize every one. Have a great night.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln. KLIN Lincoln. KVVK HD3 Lincoln. K257GN Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN.